Well, hello everyone, and welcome back finally to another video from the Canal Sidings Model Railway channel. This is number 54, and number 53 was made as long ago as the 12th of June. So we're talking 2 months. It is now the 13th of August. Excuse me. In that last video I suggested that I'd be back in about 2 weeks with another video showing that I was back modelling after we got my mum settled in the home, and she was getting on fine. What I failed to realise is that I think it was 2 days after that video the World Cup of football started. Being a great football fan, I decided that I needed to watch that, and therefore I didn't get anything done for the first 2 weeks and a bit, because it was wall-to-wall football, just from 2 o'clock in the afternoon right through till about 10 o'clock in the evening, with odd hour breaks here and there, and I just didn't get any modelling done. So I apologise for that, but as we went into the time when there was going to be some more gaps between the matches, when we got near the end of the tournament, I did start to manage to do a little bit of modelling. Unfortunately, on the 11th of July my wife was rushed into hospital with severe pains in her chest, back, stomach. She'd been being sick for 12 hours and she finally started to bring up blood, and she was rushed into hospital. That was in the early hours of the what turns out to be the Wednesday morning. She was admitted to hospital during the early part, 9 o'clock-ish on Wednesday morning, and was still suffering terrible pains. They dosed her up with morphine, but the pain just didn't get any better. Well, not significantly anyway. So they were trying to sort her out for 2 days. That was the Wednesday and the Thursday. On the Friday morning I got a call to say that at 2 o'clock on that Friday morning, I got the call about 9, at 2 o'clock on that Friday morning she'd been taken into what they call critical care, which is the intensive care unit. And you can guess I was a bit worried about that, but obviously she was in the best place. I said I'd be in to see her during the afternoon. I got another call at 12 o'clock to say when you come in you'll find that she is sedated and on a ventilator. And you can imagine by now I'm getting a bit frantic. But anyway, they said that the reason is that she was fighting them off and that they couldn't treat her while she was doing that, and she desperately needed treating. She needed to have constant monitoring. She needed to have intravenous pain relief. She needed also to have intravenous electrolytes, what do they call them, fluids, because she was dehydrating, having been sick so many times. Anyway, that was the Friday. We went in to see her on the Friday afternoon, and she was completely without. She was out of it. We didn't know anything. She didn't know anything, I should say, and it was worrying. On the Saturday, they tried to, at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, they tried to get her off the sedation and see if they could actually bring her round, and see if she'd stop fighting them, but she didn't. And her blood pressure went sky high and her blood oxygen dived, so they had to put her back on the sedation again. They tried again on the Sunday morning with a similar effect, and we said, well, okay, will it help if we're there? And they said it may do, family can help. So on the Monday morning we made sure we were there just after 9 when they turned down her sedation again. And this time she came out and recognised us, and she managed to calm down a little bit. People could talk to her, but she was completely out of it because she was saying that she was being tortured and they were trying to kill her and all sorts of things. Apparently it's not unusual, and she still had the respirator helping her breathe, etc. Anyway, they did keep her awake for the rest of that day, and we stayed there for about 8 hours that day, and we were trying to talk to her. She was pointing letters out on a chart and trying to spell letters out in the air to tell us what was going on, and as we say, she was saying strange things. Anyway, the following day we went in, and by the time we got there she had the ventilator taken out. They didn't want to take that ventilator out until they were absolutely certain that she wouldn't be fighting them off and that they wouldn't have to put her back under, because having to take it out is really bad. It's a big tube and it goes down your throat and breathes for you essentially. But in the event they took it out and she was okay, and gradually from that point she started to get better. Now, what was the problem? Well, the problem was pancreatitis. They diagnosed that on the on the Wednesday morning that we were in there. And pancreatitis, for anybody who doesn't know, and for those who do, I apologise for trying to teach you to suck eggs, but I didn't know what exactly it meant, but itis means inflammation. So hence appendicitis. Pancreatitis is inflammation of the pancreas. And they could tell that from markers in her blood. Anyway, she was in intensive care up until the following Friday, and about 8 o'clock that Friday evening they let her back to the ward when she was starting to eat carefully and gently. All the pains had gone by then, she was off the sedation, and they'd stopped feeding her through a drip. They were actually feeding her with a tube at one point to keep her alive. But anyway, by the Monday she'd made such massive progress that they let her out. So basically she'd been in there just under 2 weeks. And she was told to take it easy and that they would arrange for another scan, a CT scan, which allows them to tell exactly what's happening to the pancreas. And they did sort of suggest to her that the cause may have been a gallstone, and it could have shattered in the mouth of the pancreas because the gallbladder is connected to the same pancreas tube that feeds the output from the pancreas into the stomach, and it could have shattered in the mouth of the pancreas, or it could have just been big enough to scratch the pancreas, and that can cause pancreatitis. Anyway, they did decide she had gallstones, but they needed to send her home. The idea was that they would almost certainly, but not definitely, be removing her gallbladder. Now, the gallbladder is, again, for people who don't know, is something like the appendix. You don't actually need it. It's a leftover from some previous incarnation of the human body. We don't need it anymore. It simply takes bile from the liver and stores it, and then feeds it into the stomach as the pancreas dictates, while the pancreas tries to produce the enzymes which will dissolve all of the, digest all of the food that's in the stomach, and these enzymes can break down complex fats and complex proteins, etc. So that in a nutshell is what I was told by the doctor. I did ask the question because I had no idea what the pancreas did. Anyway, 2 weeks later she ended up back in hospital with severe stomach pains. Only this time the first few shots of morphine and they calmed down. So that was good. She was back in there for another week. She would have again been home earlier. It was a flare-up, and according to the doctor there was nothing she could have done about it. But she was back home again in a week. Would have been quicker, as I say, but she kept getting these spikes in her temperature, and they kept thinking she'd got an infection or something. Never could prove it, but she's now been sent home, and she's got a 2-week course of antibiotics. She came out last Thursday evening. You see, I've lost track of days. She came out last Thursday evening. This is Monday the 13th. She came out on Friday Thursday the, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 9th. and she has got the most enormous bag of medication I have ever seen. I've never seen anyone come out of hospital with such a big bag. Every time she eats, she has to take Creon tablets, which help to digest the food, and she also has omeprazole, which are antacid tablets that are quite powerful, do quite a good job. And she's got, as I say, 2 weeks supply of 2 different antibiotics, a cocktail of antibiotics. She takes one in the morning and one in the evening. And she's also got a supply of paracetamol, such that if her temperature starts to go up, she can take paracetamol and hopefully avoid any problems. Strangely enough, on the Thursday evening, about 10:30, 11:15, she suddenly started to shake violently, and she said, "This is what keeps happening to me," and she just couldn't stop shaking. But she doesn't breathe when she shakes, and that was another thing that worried them, because her blood oxygen level goes down. But my youngest son, is very calm with her, and he managed to get her breathing again quietly. And then the paracetamol that we got her to take kicked in. And what we've been doing since then is every time she feels cold, I don't mean just a chill, but she actually starts to feel cold and wants to cover herself up, then immediately we give her a paracetamol, or a dose of paracetamol. And she's now only taken about 2 doses a day, and she hasn't had another attack of the shivers. They will be taking the gallbladder out, that is now a certainty, and that operation is booked for the 26th of September, and that will be done in what's called the treatment centre in Hinchinbrook Hospital, which is in Huntingdon, which is a daycare centre. So it is possible that they'll shift her and put her into a bed overnight if the anaesthetic has any problems, but generally speaking she'll go in at 7:30 in the morning and she'll be let out by 7:30 in the evening. That's the typical sort of thing that they do, and it's done by a laparoscopic process, which to you and me is keyhole surgery. So that will then cure the problem of gallstones. She will never get gallstones again because you have no gallbladder. I guess what they do is they pipe the outlet of the liver straight up to the inlet of the pancreas then, and the pancreas controls how much comes out, and the liver doesn't generate any more than can fit into the tube. I don't really know. I haven't managed to ask that question yet, but you can live a perfectly good life without a gallbladder. Many people say once they have it out they feel a lot better. So that's the plan for now. She has got to go and see her surgeon for some pre-op tests on the 24th of August. What we're hoping is she doesn't have another recurrence before the operation, because if she does, it tends to put the operation back by however much time has elapsed from now to the next occurrence. But she's been incredibly careful what she eats. The doctor said there's nothing that she can do to stop it happening, but if you eat very carefully and have a very low fat diet, the chances are that you can control the rate of release of gall, and hence the rate of release of gallstones, I guess, and that way reduce the possibility of another outbreak. So that is why you haven't seen or heard anything from me for all this time. First of all, football, which I enjoyed, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're into the 6th week now of my wife's problems. But hopefully she'll come out, hopefully the operation will take place on the 26th of September. She'll come out, it's a 1 to 2 week recovery time, and then she can start getting back to completely normal. As we say, the doctor said to her she can't stop another outbreak, but by eating very carefully she can do as much as possible to avoid it. Apart from that, the only thing she's not allowed to do is anything that hurts her stomach, which is fair enough, I thought. So she can drive, and she can do the cooking. I'm trying to do the heavy work for her, but me and cooking just don't go together. I hate it and I'm bad at it and don't want to know. But I'm quite happy to do the clearing up afterwards. You know, that's the heavy part of the job, really, bending over in the sink, etc. So anyway, that's why, as I say, you haven't seen me for a while. My mum is completely settled into the home. She's made friends, although she doesn't really know it because she's got no memory. But it's strange, she's got a really good friend who ended up in hospital herself a little while ago, and they said that my mum's demeanour had changed. She wasn't the happy-go-lucky person she'd become. She was obviously missing her friend, but couldn't remember her friend. We mentioned to her, oh, so you haven't seen so-and-so for ages. Who? Who's she? You know, so although there's memory there, there's the memory of who it is and what they look like is gone. So, but she's happy, and that's all we can hope. Her house is now sold. We've got all the money, so we've got enough money to keep her there for about 5 to 6 years, by which time she'll be the best part of 100. So if she makes it that far, we've been assured that that care home has never moved anybody on when their money ran out. We just have to request that social services take the burden. Social services will say how much they're prepared to pay per week, and that home will accept that much. So can't do better than that. Okay, what I'm going to do now is, I've got a lot more to get through in this video. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just move the camera and show you a couple of other areas and tell you what I'm actually going to try and do during the next few weeks, couple of months, perhaps 3 months. I'm not going to be able to, well, I don't intend to even try to take down the piece of railway which runs this bit behind me and runs all the way around there, as you know about. I don't intend to take that down yet. I have earmarked several other places in the room that I want to improve things on parts of the railway that will still be in existence, and on a part of the railway where the new railway will go. I might get around to finishing making the baseboards, which are still sat over here, over there, where they were when I last spoke to you, not touched, fallen over a couple of times, but they're nowhere further forward. Have had a few things on the workbench, and as I say, I've gradually made a few plans of what little things I'm going to do in the railway room that don't stop me from playing trains occasionally, because I know if I was 3 or 4 months without this railway, then I would get withdrawal symptoms, because I just love playing trains occasionally. Just run something round. It's good fun. So I'll be back in a jiff with the camera pointing in a different direction. Okay, what you're looking at is the corner of the room. If I just tilt that down a little, you can see that just there, and as it goes round it comes to here, that is the hidden section of the existing railway, and that is staying, but the railway from here onwards and all the way down there is disappearing and being replaced by those baseboards that I was working on. Now, in playing a lot with the railway lately, I have realised that this section here that's hidden is a pain in the butt, because whenever you're running something and something goes wrong, that's a derailment, or a loco stalls for some reason, or you set a point the wrong way and you cause a short. Whenever anything like that happens, it always happens about 99% of the time in that hidden section, and I can't get at it easily. I have to move all of this stuff off the top first, and if I have to come all the way round, I have to move all this stuff as well in order to take the top off, and then those cupboards completely cover it. Just here at this point there's hardly any overlap of the railway in front of the cupboard, so you can't get your hand down there to remove anything that's that's derailed, etc. So what I want to do is take all the covers off of that and leave them off permanently, and just put this kind of that kind of surface there that we've got. Just leave that, leave something like that around there, paint it black probably, so that if something falls off the track it doesn't fall off the edge of the baseboard. But there won't be any covers on it anymore. Now, I'm not saying that that piece of track will ever become scenic, it's just that I'm fed up with it being covered up. So that's one of my operating problems, and what I want to do to fix it is I want to attempt to move all that lot out of the way, all that there, and put it on a shelf. And that shelf can run from just in front of this cupboard here, so that I can open the door still. It can run from there all the way along to there, and then a bit further along I have another shelf low down there, which hopefully I can extend such that the two shelves meet. What I want to do is lift the shelves a little bit, because I want the back scene of the new railway, which will be here but without a top on it anymore, it'll be open topped. I want the back scene of that railway to be about 12 inches high. At the moment it's about 9, so I need to make up 2 or 3 inches in height, and I will intend to do that by lifting the shelves a bit higher. And if I just tip you up a little bit as well, there's another shelf up there and another one up there, and what I'd like to do is get those to be nearer joining together in the middle, and lift those a bit higher. You can see how close they are to the ceiling, and lift them a little bit higher so that I've got the same sort of distance. So you can see that fan, well, there's a fan over there as well, just there, which actually is dictating the height that I want to put the shelves at. And then I can put all that lot onto the shelves. Just tighten that up again, wrong one. I can put all that lot over there onto the shelf, and then I can get my nearer 12 inches high back scene on the new layout, and I can take the awful covers off the old layout, which have been getting in my way for ages. The whole layout is covered, and this bit here along here and all the way around is covered, because originally this room was my workshop where I did a lot of woodworking, and there is a cover that goes on the front there all the way round, which means that the railway could be completely covered up when I was doing a lot of sawing, so that it didn't get absolutely festooned with sawdust. The circular saw has gone out of here now. I don't do that anymore. I had about 10 years of using the circular saw in here, and I've done a lot of things with it, but the amount of use that it got in here didn't really justify it taking up that kind of space or requiring the railway to be the way it is. So that's why I can rebuild the railway, basically. So that's the first thing I want to do, or the first two things. One is open up the section, the second one is put all that lot up on another shelf. Okay, I'll just move the camera again and show you the next thing that I want to have a go at. Okay, what you're looking at now is a corner of the layout that hasn't really been on show before. There used to, this cover here, that is the one that runs all around the end of the room, this cover used to come all the way down here and stop just past where my finger is now, and that's how you've mostly seen the layout. But what I had intended was for it originally to be open like this most of the time, and where the locomotives and coaches are standing now was going to be a diesel depot. I just pull that down a little bit further. That was the intention. A little bit too far perhaps. However, I don't need a diesel depot anymore because I'm going to have a diesel stabling point on the other part of the railway. So it won't actually be a TMD, but it will be a stabling point where you can just hold on to a loco and go and get fueled. So this bit I want to turn into a DMU storage area. Now what you can see in there, ignore that class 40, here is a 2-car class 101, and here is a 3-car class 170. As you can see, a 2-car 108 is quite short, a 3-car 170 is almost twice as long as a 2-car 101. The 2-car 101 is not going to be used, but it serves to show the extent of the problem I have here. What I actually want to try and do is to make the sidings here, at least 2 of them, long enough to take a 3-car unit. And they are the 75-foot long coaches, as the Mark IIIs are. And I want to be able to put 2 units in that are 75 feet coaches, and 3 of them. Now whether I can do that or not I don't know. At the moment these tracks run straight into there as far as they can go and stop. But what I can do is here I have some space, and I might be able to just, with a curve, I might be able to get just enough space to get a couple of 3-car units in there, especially if I move this double slip out and put a simple point in connected to there, a short pico point. I may well then be able to get a couple of long sidings and perhaps a couple of shorter ones for 2-car DMUs. That's something I want to try, but I need to get rid of all this top stuff first. So that's another job that I want to do, because this bit of the railway is staying, and I shall probably be looking into that fairly soon. Okay, I'm going to move you again. Where we are now is on the piece of the layout that's staying. This bit here, that's where I was standing when I was talking to you earlier on. This black piece here is going all the way around, but from that point on, that point there, on that way, all of that is staying all the way round as far as you can go. Okay, and you've seen that part of the layout before. Now what I want to do here is, the first thing I want to remove this high level here, which goes which goes from the end of that wall all the way to here. I want to remove that high level because I want the tracks that are under it to be on show and running round into the new section, which will be bridges over some kind of river. Haven't worked it all out yet, but I do know what bridges I'm going to use. So I want to get rid of that because, as you can see, all it ends up being is a junk storage area. I need to put all those things somewhere else, not up there. So that's the first thing I need to do. The second thing I want to do is finish off that row of houses and put a simple high level section somewhere along there into that corner over there. Probably at about the same level sticking out as this wall is. Not absolutely sure about it, but I'm fairly certain that's what I want to do, and I'm not going to have a bridge or anything across the railway at that point. So that's all going to be changed, and I can make a start on changing some of that, although what I'm not sure is what the alignment of the tracks will be just here yet. They've obviously got to get from there, and they've got to get round onto the new piece where the bridges will be, but I don't know exactly what the alignment is yet. So I can't completely fix all of that, but I can change some of it. The other thing I need to do, and I need to do it on the whole of this section, I need to check starting from there and going all the way along this section to where the high level section ends, which is just there. What I need to do with that is I need to check all of the power feeds and section breaks, and I need to do that on all of the tracks, not just the ones that are hidden behind the wall, but I need to do it on the 3 running lines in front. There you can see locos parked on the centre road, which is actually one of the main lines. The track in front of those, this track here will be disappearing. The next track in is a refuse loop, which I'm going to keep, and I'm going to extend all the way around to the other side of the layout, so it will look as if it's a 3-track main line for a lot of its run. But all of that needs careful attention and checking of how the power feeds are arranged to it, because during this hot weather and before this hot weather I have been getting lots of shorts. Those locos are standing on that road, and I can only use the loop line to run through trains, because that road that the locos are standing on, if I set the points to it, I get a permanent short. It's happened recently, and I think it's the really hot weather has expanded one of the tracks, and it has touched across one of the baseboard joints. It's touched the next track and is permanently shorted because of the fact that DCC is always on. Remember, this was originally a DC layout that has been turned into DCC simply by switching all the section switches the same way. So I've been pretty damn lucky that I got it to work at all, but I know now where most of its problems are, and 90% of them are in this section that I've just shown you. So I want to dig deeply into that and find out where all the problems are, and as quickly as possible solve them. So basically they are the jobs, I think that's all of them, they are the jobs that I need to do on the layout. Yeah, fix the shelf, open up that curve, create a DMU storage if possible, and fix the problems over there. So there's that's plenty of layout work to keep me going for some time, certainly until after my wife has recovered sometime in October. So one more thing and I'll wind the video up. So what small amount of modelling have I been doing during the last goodness knows how many weeks, when I've been able to snatch half an hour here or an hour there? Well, okay, 2 areas really. We'll start with the first one, Class 86s and their trains. What I've actually decided to do is to produce the ability to run some Virgin trains. Okay, these are rather West Coast trains, but I'm using a bit of license and saying that they can run off the West Coast sometimes. And I'm also looking at Virgin cross-country services, but this really is the Virgin Class 86s and the Mark II stock that was running during the year 2000 and around. So here is a Hornby Class 86 which has a broken pantograph. As you can see, it's missing, and I picked that up for well under 40 quid. Actually, I think I picked that one up for actually 40 quid. And what I've done is I have completely refurbished it, apart from changing the pantograph, and I have taken all the traction tyres off and replaced the wheels with traction tyres with plain wheels. Now Hornby make this very easy. These are very old models, by the way. But Hornby make this very easy because they use the wheels with gears both on the traction tyres and on the wheels that are plain. So all I had to do was pull the wheels off, pull the traction tired wheels off, and pop on some new wheels, which don't have the traction tyre slots. Now what that does, of course, is means that they don't pull so well because they are just one motor bogie. I can show you what they look like inside. Here is one that I destroyed earlier. Hang on, let me just stop it from falling apart on me. Everything seems to be, everything in my favours against me. There we go. Okay, so that's what they look like inside. So you have a motor bogie at this end and at the, sorry, I can't, I'm going to have to put this down. Right, they have a motor bogie at this end and a weight in the centre and nothing at the other end except pickups. And then there's a couple of weights on the end which aren't that heavy, but they are the cab details. Okay, so if you look underneath, if we can do that, just try and look underneath for a minute, trying to give you as much information as I can. This one hasn't had anything done to it yet. This is the end with the motor bogie, and there's a traction tyre. Actually the traction tyres are missing off this one. That's the plain bogie, this is the motor bogie. Hasn't got any traction tyres, they're gone. Okay, and what you'll notice is that there are gears. You probably can't see it. No, it's impossible to see. But this wheel, which has the traction tyre slot, has a gear on the back of it, but also this wheel that doesn't have a traction tyre slot has a gear on the back of it. So if you buy a new wheel set, which I did from Hornby, you get plenty of plain wheels. And if you buy the wheels for the rear bogie, they've also got the gears on them, but they are all plain wheels. So I bought one set of wheels for rear bogies and changed them onto the front and took the traction tyres away. The locos run so much more smoothly without them, but of course their hauling power is reduced. So what I tried was adding another 100 grams of weight, and that makes a massive difference, but it's not enough. What I now intend to do is put 2 motor bogies in each loco. This one has only got one at the moment. This is simply an ordinary bogie here. This is the motor bogie, but I have that one, and I also have a blue one which I'll show you in a minute with white roofs, which is the original colour scheme, but this one was retro painted and ran alongside these virgin ones, and it has the 86 number on one end and the E3000 number on the other, and it's called Alstom Heritage. And it's quite a departure. It's a very nice looking loco. Obviously it's not full of detail, but I got that for quite a cheap sum as well. Now this is Sir Clwyd, County of Clwyd, and this is a 5-pole version. I picked up with a broken pantograph for about 30 quid, that one that I showed you just now the bottom of, which is also a 5-pole version. So I have in there a 5-pole motor bogie, which I'm going to take the traction tired wheels off of, and I'm going to fit that motor bogie into the other end of this one. But I'm actually going to use the body from this locomotive, which is another virgin. I can hold this one up because it's in one piece. Is another virgin loco. It's Josiah Wedgwood, and it has an intact pantograph. So I am going to use that body in place of Sir Clwyd on this chassis, which will be modified to take the other motor bogie out of this one, which is an Intercity Swallow livery Novelty. Okay, talk about that in a minute. This body and the spare chassis that I get with it, because we now have 3 locos here and a 4th one down there. This body and the spare chassis will not be used, but I will have that God, I'm getting confused myself. I will have the Josiah Wedgwood body with a 2 motor chassis under it with no traction tyres, and that will pull like stink, I know. Now, what do I want to use these locos on? Well, for a start, just so that we got the full story, I also have a Virgin liveried Class 47. Bear the 47 in mind for a minute, because what I also have, and I'll just bring it round and I'll come back. As I just mentioned, I have Alstom Heritage, which is this locomotive, which is another Class 86, which has an intact pantograph. I can get it to pop. Oh, I've taken the spring off this one. I intend to set it at the height that I want it. So, and I'm going to do that with all my pantographs. They don't then spring up and smash into bridges and things. So that is another 86 that I bought for around 40 quid, which does fit the period. That one is a 3-pole loco, and that is what is in Josiah Wedgwood at the moment. That is a 3-pole loco, so I'm going to take its power bogie and put it with that 3-pole power bogie in that loco. So then I have 2 Class 86s with 2 power bogies in each, which should give me enough hauling power for the trains that I want to pull with them. What I shall do with Novelty, which is this one, is I shall make it a dummy loco. That's the lid's loose on that one. That's the one you saw the inside of. I shall make that a dummy loco. I'll have a dummy bogie at each end, and it will have lights and it will have a decoder in it, but it will not have any motor, and it will be used for double heads and things like that. This one's also got a broken pantograph that's glued down, but I have a spare pantograph anyway, so I'm going to take that off and replace it with a working pantograph, which may never be lifted, but that's what I intend to do with that. So I'll have 3 Class 86s, 2 of them with 2 power bogies and 1 with no motor, and they can be used on this train. Now this is a train of Mark IIF stock, and the typical formations were, as we can see, a Mark IIF first open, 1, 2, 3 or maybe 4 Mark IIF TSOs, tourist standard open, 1 Mark IIF second open, second class, I'll get my words out in a minute, second class brake, and possibly a DVT. I haven't pulled it round far enough for you to see. A Mark III DVT. So this train can go either way, so the 86 might push it, the 86 might pull it. You can run it without the DVT with an 86 on the end. You can run it without the DVT with a Class 47. You could run it with the DVT and a Class 47 pulling the DVT, although there's no coupling on the DVT, so I probably won't ever do that. You can run it with a 47 without a DVT, and you could run it with a 47 pulling an 86 on the other end to say that the 86 has failed. There are all sorts of ways I could run this train, and that is another train that I've built for this layout. What I'd like to do is add a buffet car to it, which would go in between. I'll do it back again. The correct place for the buffet car would be in between these two coaches, so next to the first and the second class coach the other side. But I don't have a buffet car, so I can't actually run it like that. And finally on my workbench we have an HST, something that I didn't ever think I'd have on this layout. But this is a Lima HST power car, Virgin Cross Country, and I am having trouble with it. I've refurbished it and the motor runs beautifully, but its ability to pick up off the track is pretty awful. That's because of Lima's traction tyres that are much more difficult to change than the Hornby ones, because Lima don't supply you with wheels with and without traction tyres with gears on. So the only way I know to replace them is to buy ultra scale wheels, and they are incredibly expensive and run to about 30 quid plus per vehicle. That's more than I paid for that. So the traction tyres probably have to stay on it, but I will be putting new ones on and trying to get them as flat and true as I can, having cleaned up the wheels. But I need to add some more pickups to it. It picks up off of one side of this bogie and the other side of this bogie, so it's only two wheels on each bogie that pick up, and if the track or the wheels are not perfect, then it doesn't run very well. Now, to go with that, I'll take it off because it's hard to push around with traction tyres on, but to go with it we have a complete train of HST vehicles. The first vehicle next to the power car is a TGS. That's a trailer guard standard class, and this one's had people fitted to it by the person who previously owned it. After that, that's car number A, that's car letter A. We have car B, which is a TSO, which is a trailer standard open. We have another TSO, which is car C, another TSO, which is car D, another TSO, which is car F. I don't have a car E, but then I only want a 7 car rake because I can't fit an 8 car rake into my fiddle yard. So that's car F. We then have car G, which is, oops, too far, which is a TRFB. That's a trailer first restaurant buffet. Restaurant first buffet, beg your pardon. And last but not least, we have, that's car G, sorry. And then we have car H, which is a TFO, a trailer first open. And then we have, in Lima's case, an unpowered power car, which I intend to put a motorised bogie into. So I'll have a motor bogie at both ends. I still haven't come up with any way of getting rid of traction tyres on Lima locos, other than, as I say, the ultra scale wheels. But if I could possibly do it, I would. But I'd just like to get it working at the moment. And I need to get that power car to pick up properly, basically. One more thing that I want to say, it's not to do with modelling, but it's to do with my JMRI, how I use JMRI tutorials that I was doing before all these problems broke. I've done 2 videos. The next one would have been a very complicated video. Notice I said would have been, because I would have needed to spend a long time putting it together, out of bits and pieces to try and show you what's going on. What I have decided to do is not do any more how I JMRI videos unless somebody asks me how I do something specific. When you next see me using JMRI to control the railway, maybe then you can ask the questions. However, I feel that I'm vindicated in not doing any more of that, because just started on an American channel from the good old US of A, from a channel called TSG Multimedia, is a JMRI tutorial. They've done one video so far, they may even have done a second by now, but they have done a far better job than I could ever do. I think TSG Multimedia is almost a business. So what I'm going to do is recommend that all you JMRI people who wanted to see more from me go over to them, and I will leave a link in the description of the video so that you can find the first of their videos. You can then subscribe or go to their channel and look to see if they've done a second video. But I watched their first JMRI video and it was, I thought, streets ahead of the one I'd done, or the two that I'd done. So have a look at it, let me know what you think. Anyway, that's where we are. They're the things I've been doing, they're the things I've been working on. And I'm not going to promise another video on any particular time or in any possible length of time, because last time I failed miserably. So I'm just going to say, next time I've got something to show of either modifications or something running and doing what I want it to do, then I will make a video. So sorry for being so long and so vague about when the next one will be, but I think you can probably understand the problems I've had this summer have just not been conducive to doing any kind of modelling. So I'll say goodbye now, and thanks for watching, and hopefully I will be back sooner than I was this time. Bye.